বাড়ি বানাইছি এত ফাঁকের বাড়ি ভগবান জুসটা খেয়ে মানে একদমই ঠিক
আসিসেন এরকম ঢেকে তুলো না হয়তো বলে বসবে তোমার আমার নতুন খবর আছে
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Baba.
Okay. Before we start the class, can I ask everyone to please mute yourself? Can you please mute your sound? Can you please mute your sound, everyone, so we can get started? We are still just waiting for a few more participants and students. We have at least about 20, so I'm just waiting for a few more. In the meantime, I just want to take some time to just talk to you about a few things. Those of you that have not muted your sound, I'm just looking into it. Okay, let me just quickly check down the line. Okay, I think everybody's muted their sound. Thank you for doing that. Okay, so just while I'm waiting for a few more participants to come on, I just want to quickly talk about the last class and the homework. I'm going to just quickly call out a list of those of you that submitted your homework to me. These are the following students that gave me their homework. For those of you that just came online right now, I'm just looking at homework that was turned in for the last class. It's Gopika, Preetam, Chandrika, Radharaman, Yadav, Vishnupriya, Krishnendu Paul, Anu Paul, Anurup, Sailaja, Madhurima, Jagannath Prabhu, Krishna Paul, and Madhavi Shakti Mataji. So I only received homework from 13 students. The others, if you can just finish off the homework and send it to my email, the introduction and text 1 homework, because today you're getting homework again. So before all of the homework just piles up, and I know you have Nectar of Devotion homework, you have Bhagavad Gita homework, you have Isha Upanishad homework. So if you can please just make sure, because for the exams, I think they may just ask that they're going to count maybe probably homework, attendance. So it's going to help you out a lot, because the homework questions may just appear in the exams. So that will help you as well. Okay, I'm just going to wait a few minutes more, because I don't have all of the students. So probably some of them. And one quick humble request. If you can just from time to time, just check your WhatsApp messages just to see like if there's class, if there's no class. And if you can just remember to just scroll back and forth and check your messages. Like instead of saying, is there class today? Is there no class? If you just, most of you are young, you are technologically so advanced, you just go up and down. You can see when there's class, who's giving the class. That at least saves you from, constantly wanting to know if there's class and who's giving class. So just make sure that you constantly check your messages back and forth. So in that way, we don't have to constantly send out messages. It makes it much easier. Okay, I'm just going to wait a few minutes more, and then I'm going to go ahead and get started.
Haribol Mataji.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, I will take the attendance during the class sometime. So,
yes, that's
okay.
Perfect. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Okay. Just waiting for a couple of minutes more. So I just wanted to talk again about the homework. Just make sure you get the last homework done. Send it to my email. Today's homework, you're going to have like a week and a half to get done. So as soon as you get it done, try not to procrastinate. Try to get the homework done as soon as you get it, within a couple of hours or a day or two. So in that way, you're not going to have all of the homework piled up. While I'm just waiting for a few more students, I just want to say that after the last class, you are going to have an exam. So if you get all the homework done beforehand, that will help you a lot to practice for the exam. Okay, I think I'm looking at my time. I think I'm going to go ahead and get started. By the way, I am recording this and it's going to be put on YouTube, but that's only going to be for all of the devotees that are in this class. And these YouTube videos will be sent to you not right now. It'll be sent to you after the last class, after the 8th of August. Between the 8th of August and the exam, you get access to all of the YouTube videos of these classes, so you can listen to them and use them as a study guide for the exam. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I see not everyone is here, but when they come on, Gopal Radhe Prabhu, if you can just please make sure, like you helped me the last time, to see who was on the other.
I checked. There were a few devotees there. I pushed them over here. I'll go and check again one time.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So, firstly, welcome to this class. This is the second class of our Nectar of Instruction. We're doing it a couple of days before because your Bhagavad Gita instructor, Markandeya Prabhu, is not too well. So I've just stepped in at the last minute to take his place. So I'm sure you will have his class tomorrow and on Saturday. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sumiti Paschatya Desatarine. So let me go ahead and get started. Today we are looking at, if you can also just make sure, one quick request, make sure that your sound is muted, so that I can go ahead and get started without any interruption. So today we are looking at the Nectar of Instruction. We're looking at two texts. We're going to be looking at text 2 and text 3. So just give me 1 second. I'm going to quickly, if you can see this on my screen, I'm screen sharing, so everybody should see this. You can see that I've got it boxed. Today we are looking at two texts only. We're looking at text 2, which is obstacles to devotional service, and text 3, which is principles that aid, everything that helps our devotional service. The last time we did the preface and text 1. Today is going to be 2 and 3. We have 1, 2, 3 more classes to go. So the next class we will do 4, 5, and 6. The class after that we'll do 7 and 8. And then the last class we'll do 9, 10, and 11. So in that way, don't worry about it. We will get all 11 texts done by the last class, which is I think it's August. My class will be the 1st of August. So that 1st of August, that Saturday, we should get all 11 texts done. And thereafter, you can just start preparing for the exam. Make sure for the exam, you all have the student guidebook. There are some open book questions and closed book questions. My homework is from the open book questions, but whenever you have time, you can go ahead and, I should suggest, start answering those 34 questions that are in the closed book questions. Start answering them, and as my homework is being done, you would have answered all of the open book questions. In that way, you'll have 7 open book questions to study for the exam and 34 closed book. If you look at all of them, those 41 questions, your exams on this Nectar of Instruction is going to come from all of those questions. So please don't wait on me to tell you. You should start as I do each text. Look at those 34 questions. It's broken up into 3 or 4 per text. Start answering them. Get a nice binder, start making your notes, and start answering all these questions. So that at the last minute, you don't, not scrambling around, not knowing what you have to do and what you study. Because I think the aim is we want to make sure that everybody attempts the exams and does well and passes the exams. Okay, so today we're looking at text 2 and 3. Before I begin, I just want to recap text 1. So just as a reflection and recap, last time we spoke about, we said there were 6 urges that we had to control. We said it was Vacho Vegam, Manasa Krodha Vegam. We said a sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind's demands, the actions of anger, and the urges of the tongue, belly, and genitals is qualified to make disciples all over the world. So this text 1, we said that a person has to control these urges. They have to control that wanting to talk prajalpa, the mind, just taking control of their intelligence, becoming too angry. They have to control that. They have to control the amount of prasad they eat and what they eat. They also have to control the urges of their belly and genitals. So I think there shouldn't be any problem with that. I just wanted to recap that. So let me move on. So my recap was, if you follow my arrow, you can see exactly what I'm doing. So I just took a few minutes to recap text 1. The gist of text 1 is we had to control all of these different urges that are to do with our body and our mind. Text 2, this is what we're going to be looking at. We're going to look at all of the obstacles to our devotional service. We're going to look at all of the do's and the don'ts. Why do we need both? All of the things we should do, all of the things we should not do. Then we're going to go into Prabhupada's commentary, the actual purport, where Prabhupada talks about all of Krishna's energies, all of the miseries of our material world. And then we're going to look at the mind map or the chart at the end of it. Once we are done with text 2, we're going to move on to text 3, which is the opposite of 2. In terms of text 3 is now telling us all the things that help us in our devotional service, all the things that we should do that's going to help our bhakti. Then we're going to look at the 9 processes of devotional service. What should our attitude be? We're going to also go into the purport like before and look at what our previous acharyas have told us. We're going to sum up or summarize the entire text 3 and look at the main ideas. And then we're going to end off by looking at our chart. So this is just the objectives of today's lesson. And without further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and get started. So if you can just pull up your text, if you have it. If you don't, you can follow with me. I would like for you to also have your copy of Nectar of Instruction with you, whether it's the PDF or the actual book. Have the hard copy or the PDF with you, because I'm going to refer to different pages from time to time. One other thing, in this class, because of the time constraints, I won't be able to read the entire purports for any of my text. I'll be just going in and out, talking about many main ideas. But I think it's very important that when you have time, you should, for the text 1 we did 2 weeks ago and for today's text, if you have the time, can you please go through the entire purport, and just for your own sake, you should read it. Because this is all such gems, such magic that Prabhupada has written in his purport, and it explains it so nicely. So I think the last time I omitted to tell you that. So going on from this class onwards, please make sure when you have time, this is a very short book and I think everybody has enough time now. So just make sure after today's class, go back, read the first purport to the first text, read text 2 purport, read text 3 purport. So it'll help you remember these things. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. This text is, I'm just pulling it through, it's text 2. The title of this text is Obstacles to Devotional Service. I'm first gonna do the, read the text, do the translation, and then I'm gonna break up what the word obstacle means. So let me go ahead. This is what it says, text 2. Atyahara prayasascha prajalpo niyama agraha janasangascha laulyam cha sadbhir bhaktir vinashyati. Translation: one's devotional service is spoilt when he becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities. 1, eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required. 2, over-endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain. 3, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matter. 4, practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement. Or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically. 5, associating with worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And 6, being greedy for mundane achievements. So these 6 things. So remember, it's all looking like categories or bunches of 6. Like text 1 was all of the 6 urges to avoid. This text is now telling us the 6 obstacles. Now, what is an obstacle? An obstacle, the simple English meaning is something that comes in our path, something that blocks our way. Like if I'm driving down the road and there's a huge, maybe a fallen tree, and I'm like, oh, that's an obstacle. I can't drive down the road because of this big tree. So this tree that's fallen on the road, across the road, is an obstacle to my path. So obstacle is anything that is a hindrance or stops our bhakti from growing. So Sri Rupa Goswami tells us very nicely, and in this purport, in this text, he's going to tell us of all the 6 things that we should avoid. So these instructions are very important. These 6 things that we're going to look at are all the 6 things that destroy our bhakti. Look at this word that if you can follow my arrow, follow my mouse, you can see sadbhir bhaktir vinashyati. Vinashyati means it destroys our bhakti. So do we want anything to destroy our devotional service? Absolutely not. As practicing sadhakas, we are on this path back home, back to Godhead. We are going to protect our devotional service. We're going to make sure that nothing destroys it. So therefore, it is very incumbent on us that we follow this text, that we painstakingly look at all of these 6 things. That's why today we're going to break it down. What is eating more than necessary or collecting more? What does that really mean? What does each one really mean? So basically, what Rupa Goswami is telling us is that we should do all the things that are favorable for our bhakti. That's going to be in the next text. In this text, he's saying we must avoid all of the things that are going to be harmful. So these obstacles harm our bhakti. They are not good for our bhakti, so we don't want to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and show you this. So if you can, don't look at this side, if you can just look at this part here. I'm going to use a nice example that I found, and this is saying, like, You know, when you, in spiritual life, we have to have the do's and the don'ts. So text 2 is all of the don'ts. Don't do this, don't do that, don't do this. And then text 3 is all of the do's. Do this, do that, do this. So why do we need both? Why does Rup Goswami tell us about the do's and the don'ts? Why can't we just have only the do's? Some of you may be thinking, but Mataji, why do we need what I should not do? Isn't it sufficient to just have all of the do's? Isn't it important just for me to know all of the things I should do? No, we're going to look at why. I'm going to use an analogy to show you why you need to know what you should do and also what you should not do. Both go hand in hand. Both work simultaneously. Both go together. For example, if you're a person that's sick and you go to a doctor, when you get to the doctor examines you, and please follow with me, it's going to make sense at the end of it. When you go to the doctor, say suppose I go to the doctor and he's going to say, okay, Mrs. Das, you should, after examining you, I've discovered that you have this illness. So you're going to have to take antibiotics. You're going to have to drink lots of liquids. You're going to have to eat correctly and make sure you take all your medication. So that's all of the do's that he's going to tell me. And then at the same time, the doctor doesn't only tell me all of the do's. To make sure that I am cured because my body is sick, I have an illness, he's also going to tell me all of the don'ts. So then he's going to say, okay, Mrs. Das, make sure you do not maybe eat too much of fried foods. Don't consume too much of sugar. Don't eat too much of spicy foods. So he's going to give me the do's and the don'ts. Now just think of it logically. If I want to get cured, if I want to get better, what do you think I should do? Should I only do all the do's, or should I do the do's and the don'ts? What do you think? Don't you think I have to do both? Yes. Yes, I have to do the do's and the don'ts. I have to make sure I take my medicine, but I also have to avoid all the things that I should not be eating and should not be doing. So in that way, I'm going to get better faster, and my illness is going to be cured faster. So now let me explain this analogy of going to the doctor to a person or a devotee that comes to Krishna consciousness. So basically, we are all conditioned souls. We are stuck in this material world. I should say we have this material body. We can't do anything about it. We are in a way materially diseased. We have to go through birth, disease, old age, and then finally death. Now, being in this material body, we have to make the best of a bad bargain. But if you notice about yourself, I know about myself, I can speak for myself. We are always so independent. We don't like to be told anything. Somebody tells me something, how to do it, naturally I want to object. Why? Because I think I know best. Somebody says, Anandini, do this, do that. And I'll be like, no, don't tell me what to do. I know how to do it right. So generally, all of us, we have a problem with our ego. We hate being told what to do. If somebody says, you should chant your rounds, you should read books, you should go to the temple and do service. Sometimes you meet people and you're trying to preach to them. You tell them these things and they'll be like, no, I don't want to do that. Why should I chant? Why should I read all of this? I'll do it when I feel like it. If I don't feel like it, I won't do it. So whether it's a non-devotee or whether even if it's a devotee, what is the kind of answer you should give them? So I know I may be like roundabout going on this, but I'm going to show you my point. So the answer you should tell them is, like you go to a doctor to cure your spiritual disease, you have now come to this Krishna consciousness movement, and here with the nectar of instruction, Rupa Goswami is our spiritual doctor. So we should follow these do's and don'ts to make sure that spiritually we become well. Spiritually we are cured. So I'm hoping you just understood my example about the doctor. I'll say it very quickly. Like you go to a doctor to get cured if you have an illness, and the doctor says, do this and don't do this. In the same way, today's text is going to be text 3, is all the do's. And before that, it's really nice that Rup Goswami starts off with all of the don'ts first, because see how important the don'ts are. So he's a spiritual doctor, and today he's going to be telling us all of the don'ts we should not do, we should stay far away from. And then he's going to tell us all of the do's that we should do, because what is our ultimate purpose? And I'm coming to this. See this screen here? This is the main thing. So basically, the main thing that we have to do, we have 2 types. The do's is all of the prescriptions, like the doctor gives us. This is our prescription, all of the do's. The don'ts is all of the prohibitions, all of the things we shouldn't do. So this in the terms is the Vedis and the Nishad. So we have to keep this in mind. Now, out of all, if you look at our scriptures, there are tons and tons of do's and don'ts. And when you're studying Nectar of Devotion rather, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, you're going to see there's a whole lot of do's and don'ts. So what is the most important one? The most or the best one of all of it, the highest one, is to always remember Krishna and never forget him. So what is the main thing we practice? All of this Vedis and Nishads, all of this prohibitions, the do's and don'ts, because our main purpose is to always, now some of you may say, but Mataji here, why couldn't we say just always remember Krishna? Why we have to say never forget him? It's the same example I told you about the doctor. Both go hand in hand. Always remember Krishna means always do all the things that help your devotional service. Never forget him means always make sure that you don't do the things that will cause you to forget Krishna. So both go together. So I hope that makes sense to you. I'm just going to, I'm going to quickly now look at your Nectar of Instruction. I'm going to go actually to the book. So if you have the book on hand, can you quickly go to page 15? And I have my hard copy, so I'm going to quickly move on to that. Let me just quickly check if I missed anything. Okay, let me just quickly go back to this one. We're looking at the 6 obstacles. We're going to look at one by one a little later on. So atyahara, eating more than necessary, over endeavoring. I know there's some big words. It may not make sense to you, but we're going to take each one. Prajalpa, talking unnecessarily. Niyama agraha, following rules for the sake of following it or not following any rules. Jana sangascha, associating with people that are not devotees. And lolyam, just being greedy for all these material mundane things. So let's just quickly go to text 15. I absolutely love Srila Prabhupada's purports. That's why I'm advising you after today's class, please go through and read it. Read it. Everything that I'm going to discuss in today's class is from this purport. Read it. If you have further questions, maybe I may be going too fast for you. You have further questions that you need clarification on, you can always just text me or just email me. So here, I'm going to go ahead. I'm looking at page 15 for those of you that have the book on hand or the PDF copy. So here, basically, Srila Prabhupada starts his commentary and the purport. He starts saying that our human form of life, the overriding principle is simple living, high thinking. So that's the basis. We live simply, but our minds are engaged on a higher level of thinking. So we try to be the best that we can in terms of always working our minds, reading, preaching, studying scriptures. We do all of that. And our material comforts, we try to keep as minimal as possible. So Srila Prabhupada starts off the purport with that. Just give me 1 second. I just want to see if anybody has any questions. Okay. The homework, some people are just asking about the homework. If you can just go back to the WhatsApp text, and you will find that for the last time I did send you the homework, and I'll send it back to you again after this class. So let me just quickly go back. So here, Srila Prabhupada talks about Krishna having three main or three primary energies. So these energies are, first one is the Antaranga Shakti, which means the internal potency. This is more exhibited by Radharani. And then the external, which is Mahamaya, the external potency, which is called the Bahiranga Shakti. And this one in the middle is us. It's all our living entities. This is the Tatastha Shakti, or the marginal potency. Out of all of these energies, we as people, the living entity, we fall under this marginal potency, marginal energy. Now we have a choice. Which one do we follow? Are we going to go left or go right? Are we going to follow this is the good way to go. See my arrow? If you follow the internal potency, Antaranga Shakti, that means you are firmly engaged in devotional service. That means you are practicing. Oh, by the way, I wanted to mention that all of these things that we are doing, text 2, text 3, all of that is all of the aspects that are going to help our bhakti grow. That's our main purpose, to just make sure that our bhakti is growing. So going back to this, the energy, if you follow the internal potency, you follow Krishna's internal, this energy of Krishna, that means you are fixed in devotional service. Or if you decide to jump onto this path, this for many of you, please, it's a no-no. It's a no-go area. It should be a big X over here. This is more dealing with all of this material world, being engrossed in the material world. And being part of the material world, sometimes whether we like it or not, we can't help it. We are part of this world. We have to learn how to transcend this and move on to just being focused on this side of it. And I just wanted you to hear from the Master himself, just hear a few words of wisdom from Srila Prabhupada.
We are under energy. The God has got two energies, material energy and spiritual energy. We are also energy. We are marginal energy. So, marginal energy means we can remain under the material energy or on the spiritual energy, as we make our choice. Marginal, just like on the beach, you find sometimes on the border of the water is covering the land, and sometimes the land is open. This is called marginal position. Similarly, we are marginal energy of God, living entities. So, we can remain under the water, means the material energy, or we can remain open on spiritual energy.
So I think that was so well explained by Srila Prabhupada. So he's telling us, he uses the example of the beach and the water. He's saying we have a choice. So the choice rests on us. Are we going to be part of the material energy or the part of the spiritual energy? So I think without doubt, almost all of us are going to choose to be firmly fixed on the path of devotional service. So we all are choosing this path of the spiritual energy. And moving back to the next one. Sorry, let's move on to the next. Okay. Before I move on to this, Srila Prabhupada talks about, if you look at page 16, okay, there's somebody that needs to please just mute your sound, please. Thank you. So here, if you look at page 16, after talking about these three energies, Prabhupada goes ahead and talks about the difference between a person who is a Mahatma and a person who is a Duratma. Please, that's one of your questions on your close-ended or closed book questions. So you should, if you are taking notes, just make sure you take notes about this because it's one of the questions that may appear in your exam. So Srila Prabhupada says that if a person is a Mahatma, that means they are broad-minded. They are a great soul. And a Mahatma is someone that is fully engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. He knows what's his purpose in life. He's doing this spiritual realization as opposed to a Duratma. Duratma meaning somebody who is cripple-minded. And Prabhupada goes on to very nicely explain. He says that those people that are Duratma or cripple-minded people, they are the ones that are so engaged in this material energy. They're just taking care of themselves, their family, or it's maybe their community or their broader society. They're so firmly fixed in this material world that they forget that there's a higher purpose in life. So, Srila Prabhupada is saying that we should all strive to be Mahatmas. That should be, and not a Duratma. We want to be firmly fixed in devotional service. So I just wanted to put that out there. Oh, he also mentions that a Mahatma is a person, and this, pay attention to this because this is an important part. Srila Prabhupada says that a Mahatma is one who gratifies the senses of the Lord. He doesn't gratify his senses. He doesn't gratify or satisfy his family senses or his society or community senses. He goes above all of that. He goes straight to satisfying the Lord's senses. So this person is highly intelligent. He's very wise. He or she knows that if I satisfy Krishna, then like you have a tree, are you going to water the branch and the twigs and the leaf of each tree? Or the analogy is given, are you going to pour water on the root? When you pour water on the root, automatically the whole tree gets nourished and the whole tree grows and flourishes. So just to quickly tell you about this, the Mahatma is one that gratifies Krishna's senses. That is one thing you should look at. I don't want to leave out anything from this purport because it was just so many wonderful words of wisdom. So the next part I'm going to go on to, and if you look at my PowerPoint, Srila Prabhupada goes on to elaborate about this material world. And he says that this is just the nature of the material world. Is there any one of us at any given time, no matter how old we are, how young we are, however long we've been a Hare Krishna devotee, is there any one of us that can say we have never experienced any of these three? Let's look at all of these three miseries. It's very wonderfully compartmentalized, categorized into Adi-Atmic, Adi-Devik, and Adi-Bhautik. So what's the first one? Adi-Atmic. These are all of the sufferings that a person goes through that is caused by what? Their own mind and body. So this is all of the mental. Maybe you have like depression, somebody has mental issues, stress, their mind troubles them too much. Or they have physical illnesses, physical ailments, their body is troubling them too much. So if you're suffering from any one of these ailments, so that is called Adi Atmik. Then Adi Devik. Adi Devik is all of the sufferings caused by the demigods, like droughts. We are familiar here with hurricanes, floods, storms. So these are all Adi Devik, caused by the devas, the demigods. And then finally, Adi Bhautik, all of the sufferings caused by other living entities, whether they are insects, animals, could even be other people, enemies that we have, people that dislike us. So this I found is really very helpful to us, because as devotees, sometimes, I mean, Krishna forbid, God forbid, we should go through all three at one time. I don't think sometimes that happens, but most of the time, just we go through one or the other, sometimes a combination of two, sometimes just one. So my point here is that at any one given point in time, as devotees or people in this material world, we're always going to be suffering. We're always going to be struggling. And what is the consciousness we should have? We should know how to transcend this. We should realize, as a devotee, we should say, okay, like I talk to myself, Anandini, this is just the facts of life. This is the material world. I have to go through some type of suffering or the other. So how you deal with it, that's what helps you in your material, I mean, your spiritual world, life, how you deal with these types of sufferings. So I'm trying to make the point that don't think that this material world is going to be stress-free, trouble-free. Like, see, now we're going through all of this COVID and all of the precautions. Sometimes our minds get the better of us and we get too paranoid. Like, what's going to happen? Am I going to be safe? What's going to happen in the future? So yes, I mean, sometimes we are concerned about all these things, but above all these things, the right consciousness to have is, this is just the sufferings of the material world. We have to endure this. There's no escaping it. We have to suffer along with it. But mentally, in our mind, we have to use our intelligence and transcend this. We have to be higher than this. We cannot use any of these miseries to get us down. And as devotees, if we're having any problems, and I'm just going to throw this out there as well, we should always seek help. Remember, one of the things we're going to do in the next verse is, text 4 is all of the loving exchanges. And you're doing that in Nectar of Devotion. You covered that briefly. Like, we should reveal our mind in confidence, talk to other devotees, get some help. Remember, we are the best movement in the whole wide world, in all of the worlds. So this ISKCON movement is here to provide us with help. So if this is troubling us, we should just get help and try to, manage this the best that we can. Okay, so I think I covered all of that. I'm going to move on to the next one. Let me just get to the next slide. Okay, I'm going back. Okay, I'm going to leave this on because I want to look at this slide. And please, there's a whole lot of information on this slide. I don't want your mind is going to be all over the place. You're going to be, oh my gosh, there's so much of things on the screen. What should I look at? What should I not look at? Can I ask you, please, just a humble request, just follow my arrow. I'm going to take it from left and work to the right. And I'm going to cover each box and explain all of it to you. And I'm going to use it in conjunction with with Srila Prabhupada's purport. I'm now looking at page 18, and I'm going to start off with this analogy that Prabhupada gives. This is such a wonderful analogy. Like I said, Srila Prabhupada said, we are all part of this material world, we need to know how to use it to the best of our ability. So if you look at this in this material world, if you get an example, say suppose you're walking down the street and you see a bag of rice on the street, a bag of grains, a bag of rice. It could be a bag of any type of food. So if there's a bird flying by or animals around, you will notice that they will get to this bag of rice. The bird may just, peck at it, just fill up its belly with however many grains, and the bird is gonna fly away. Do you think the bird is gonna call all of its mates and pick up the bag and go keep it in its nest? No, definitely not. The bird is just gonna eat as much as it can consume to fill up its belly, and the bird is gonna be satisfied and fly away. But what happens to us as living entities? What happens if a human being or man is walking down the street and he sees that bag of rice? You think he's going to go there and just eat as much as, or take whatever he can and just walk away from the rest of it? No. What he's going to do, and Prabhupada says in his commentary, the person, and I'm going to read straight off, a human being, however, will take away the whole bag. Was that a surprise to any of you? No, because that is just human nature. Human nature, we have this innate tendency. We have this innate thing of us to always store, to keep things away. Atyahara, to collect too much. Prabhupada says, the text, Rupa Goswami says, overeating or too much collecting. Atyahara. So we do it too much. We eat too much or we collect too much. So that's just, and because we collect too much, Srila Prabhupada is saying here, because of this atyahara, the entire world is suffering. Because I'm going to show you how, because we collect too much, that's going to lead us to over-endeavoring. But I'll come back to that. So atyahara, what is the first thing we should not do? This is an obstacle to devotional service. It is one of the nisheds. Prabhupada is saying it is something we should not do. Do not overeat. Do not collect more than what you need. Just be happy with what you have. Now, having said that, some of you may just say, but oh, Mataji, during this COVID time, people were all running around and stockpiling and collecting a whole lot of things. And I don't know about here in the US, but I can speak for back home in my country, in South Africa. I had family members that were going and stockpiling like for 6 months of supplies because they were not sure whether it was going to become available. So here, in situations like that, sometimes we have to do the needful. But basically, when everything is fine, when there's no quarantine or lockdown or things like that, we have to be careful of just stockpiling or getting more things and keeping more things than we need. So here, when it comes to atyahara, Srila Prabhupada's purport talks about that what is the actual purpose of religion? What is the true purpose? And he goes on to mention, and I'm going straight to this, he goes on to talk about the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is Canto 1, Chapter 2, Text 9. He refers to what Sutta Goswami. Sutta Goswami says that we should do everything, all of our duties, not for material gain. And I'm paraphrasing. Do our duties not for material gain, and do not cultivate sense gratification. So what is the actual purpose? Our actual purpose is to have a higher consciousness. We don't want to quote Sutta Goswami, don't use dharma for material gain, and don't use your material gain to get sense gratification. So basically, do your duties for a higher purpose. Do your duties for Krishna consciousness, not for a material purpose. So that is the actual purpose. And then we see, I'm going to just jump to Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 8, Text 41. where we see here that Narad Muni is instructing Dhruva Maharaj. And Narad Muni is just telling Dhruva Maharaj that you should do devotional service. And when you do devotional service, whatever desires you have, whether it is economic development, whether it is sense gratification, whether any type of desires you have, just stick to the path. In this modern society, we should follow what Narad Muni told Dhruva Maharaj, that just engage in devotional service. When you engage in devotional service, the true purpose of religion, all of your desires will be fulfilled. What is true religion? Prabhupada talks about in the purport that true religion means we should just be satisfied with the bare necessities of life, the bare essentials, but we should be more interested in cultivating our Krishna consciousness. And now I'm going to move on to the next part where Prabhupada, and I hope I haven't been going too fast. Let me just take a couple of minutes to just check the chat. Okay, some are requesting the chart. Yes, like I told you the last time, everything that I have, this entire PowerPoint with the chart, I will send to you straight after this class. And the video recordings, after the last class, you'll have access to all of it. So you will be able, when you're studying for the exam, you'll be able to listen to all of it. Okay, so I need to move on. There's a little part here where I just want to add on, because of the commentaries, we don't only have Srila Prabhupada's commentary in this purport, we also have Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj's commentary. He writes in his Anuvriti commentary that it is these mentors. See, he talks about the karmis and the jnanis. He says that these people that are more interested in material benefits, the jnanis that are just mental speculators, they are looking at this and that and all these different things. These people are more interested in that philosophical aspects or economic development. And Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj says all of this falls under the category of atyahara. So they are over-endeavoring these. If you look at all these karmis that are writing countless books, these jnanis that are writing all these books, look at these two arrows. They're writing books about what? About material benefits, how to become the best materially, or what is the purpose of life, how to merge into Brahman, doing all these things. So all of this, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj says, this is all falls under the category of atyahara. All of this is entirely futile. So futile means it's useless, it's worthless. They spend years and years doing all of these things, and at the end of it, it gets them nothing, nowhere. And a very nice analogy is used. The analogy is given of a businessman. He was a great karmi, and I'm taking this from the purport. This man that accumulated so much of fortune, not only for himself, for his kids and his grandkids and his great-grandkids. And he got all of this fortune, and he was so happy that, you know, in future, his whole life is going to be taken care of, and he's going to live happily ever after. So what happens after he passes on, after he dies? His kids and grandkids inherit all of his fortune, and he takes birth in a cobbler's house. Cobbler's house, which is just in a building next to this big house that he constructed for his family. And when he goes to his former house, he's expecting everyone to welcome him with open arms and treat him well. But horror of all horrors, what do you think happens to him? I'm reading from the purport. His former sons and grandsons beat him with shoes. So see all of this endeavor, trying to run after all of this wealth. He was such a rich businessman. He got so wealthy. He did all of that. But what happened to him at the end? The very people that he left all of his wealth to didn't recognize him in his next birth. They didn't know who he was. So they beat him up and chased him away. So what is the purpose of the analogy? unless we stop being karmis or focus on karmi way of life, or don't be involved in all this karmi, jnani philosophy, focus more on devotional service. That is the best. This third part, that is the best welfare work. The best welfare work is to help others and make them Krishna conscious. So I'm going to move on to the next part now. There's another analogy. In Prabhupada's purport, he now talks about how the group of people, he says, sometimes you have communists and capitalists. So he gives us the difference between the two. He says, a capitalist is what you find in like a first world, like you find in a democratic country like America, Great Britain, India, where capitalism, everybody wants to be the best. They want to just earn the most money they can. They want to make the best of their life and be very successful people and accumulate a lot of wealth and be prosperous. And then Srila Prabhupada says, on the other hand, you get, a communist person. The communist person doesn't want that. The communist person is envious of the capitalist person. The communist person just wants to get all of the wealth from the capitalist. And if you look at countries like the former Russian countries, all these communist countries, China, what they want to do is they want to share the wealth. So they want to get the wealth and distribute it amongst all of the citizens. So Srila Prabhupada is saying in the commentary, which is the best of the two? And then he says, neither is the best. Not to be a capitalist, nor a communist. Because Srila Prabhupada is saying the capitalist is just collecting and collecting and collecting without any God realization. The communist takes, envious of the capitalist, takes all of these things from the capitalist person, but he doesn't know how to use it. And eventually he succumbs to all of this greed and he starts misusing all of these things for his own selfish purpose. So Srila Prabhupada ends up by saying that both the capitalists and the communists, they are both thieves. Basically, they're all stealing from Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada goes on to say in his commentary, he gives a beautiful analogy again of the $100 bill. He says, if there's $100 lying on the street, you're going to get three types of people. You're going to get somebody that comes along, looks left and right, looks at the $100 bill, says, oh my gosh, today's my lucky day. They're going to pick up that $100 and do what with it? Quickly slip it into their pocket and make it their own and use it for their own benefit. But that person is stealing. That money was not his. So he is stealing. He's a thief. He's a dishonest person. Then the next person will come, see the money. Now this person doesn't touch it. He says, oh, this is not mine. I should not take it. So he just neglects it. He leaves it lying on the street, walks away, doesn't do anything. He says, it's not my business. I shouldn't do it or take anything. He's not aware of the proper use of it. Then the third man comes along. He picks it up. He tries to ask, runs a little forward, tries to ask anybody, tries to see if he can find the owner. He tries to return it to the owner. This person is, of the three, the wisest and most honest, because now he sees something that doesn't belong to him and he wants to find the rightful owner and give it to that person. So why does Srila Prabhupada talk about this analogy? Because he's trying to say that out of these three types of people, we should be the type of person that when we get something, when we see something, we should use it in Krishna's service. Everything that we have, all of the wealth, everything in this material world. Oh, and I came to this. You did this in your first Ishopanishad class. This is something that I'm sure you're going to have to memorize, that Ishavasham idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat Tena tyaktena bhunjita magrida kasya svidanam. So you should, to paraphrase, everything in this world belongs to who? The Supreme Lord, Krishna. And a living entity should only use what is set aside for him as his quota. Don't accept anything else, because you should know that everything else or everything belongs to Krishna. So see how this principle is tied in with Ishopanishad, that everything belongs to Krishna. Don't be a thief. Make sure that everything is centered on Krishna. If something is not centered on Krishna, stay away from it. So basically, I spent all of this time here explaining about Atyahara. So what was Atyahara? Don't eat too much. Don't collect too much. Just be happy with what you have. And just as a quick comment, because it just popped, this idea popped into my head. Sometimes if you do find money, which I do, always make sure when you, even if I find stuff like around, if I find something, I'm walking around, find some money or do something that doesn't belong, give it to Krishna. If you find something, $1 bill, couple of dollars that is not yours, you don't know who it is, wait till you come to temple and put it in the hundi. In that way, you know, not only are you helping out, but whoever's money that is, that person is making so much of advancement. Like last year, I was doing the Jazz Fest, the book table, and I was talking to so many people, and somebody had come, and I don't know who it was. They must have looked at my books and sat next to me, and when they left, at the end of it, I found like $80. The person had just maybe slipped out of their pocket. So what I did was I put it in the hundi, and I was like, oh, this person, you know, they lost their money. How am I going to find out who it is? So best I put it in the hundi in the temple. So that person is going to get that that benefit of that. Their money is going to be used in Krishna's service. Okay, I'm done with that. Let me just move on to, and how are we doing for time? Okay, not too bad. We're going to go to, and I hope you all are doing okay thus far. If anybody has any comments, any questions, please let me know. Or we can save that for the end. So I looked at all of that. Basically, our most important principle is simple living, high thinking. Everything belongs to Krishna, and we should use everything in Krishna's service. The next part is when you try to collect too much, see what happens next. This leads on. It's a progression. You collect too much. Then the next part is prayasascha. So what happens here? You over endeavor. Over endeavor means you bend over backwards to do things. You work so hard, more hard than it is necessary for you to work. And what happens? Srila Prabhupada says that this prayasascha, this over endeavoring, leads to people doing all of the wrong things. Wrong things, like you find that many, like liquor dens, they consume too much liquor, they visit brothels, too much of factories come into being, like too much of materialistic, mundane things people get caught up in. And what is the problem with that? Where is my arrow? What is the problem with that? It leaves less time for inquiry. Inquiry about what? Inquiry about spiritual life. And you know, Srila Prabhupada, he always has to give us a solution. He says the solution is simple living, high thinking. So don't over endeavor. Just make sure everything is focused on Krishna. Then the third quality, we said atyahara, and I'm going to keep saying it so it sticks in your head. Too much of over endeavoring, too much of running after, or too much of collecting, which leads to over endeavoring. And then he talks about prajalpa again. Now we're familiar with this because in text 1, we looked at the frog analogy as well. We said, don't keep croaking like a frog. Unnecessary talk that's not related to Krishna consciousness, we should stay away from. And sometimes, and I'm going to say this, as devotees, yes, we go through many challenges. Sometimes in our spiritual life, we go through a lot of hardships. Sometimes if something bad happens to us, we don't want other devotees to talk about it. We don't want, sometimes maybe somebody, like I'm going to give you one example. Once way back during Prabhupada's times, there was one sannyasi that fell down. Fell down means he couldn't follow his vows of being a sannyasi. And when devotees found out about it, there was one of Prabhupada's disciples that spread this message to everyone that, oh, do you know so-and-so? He's not a sannyasi anymore because he couldn't keep his vows. And, excuse me. And this message quickly spread to everyone. And when Srila Prabhupada found out about it, he was extremely angry. He was more angry with this devotee that was spreading the message than the actual sannyas that fell down. So why was Srila Prabhupada angry? Because Srila Prabhupada said, now you have made it impossible for him to even think of coming back, because you have now engaged in this unnecessary, prajalpa, unwanted talk. So as human beings, sometimes when we got nothing good to talk about, we tend to talk about everything other than Krishna consciousness. So we should just remember that this is, material world is like a hospital. We are all in this hospital. We are in different units. Some of us may be in the general ward. Some people may be in the ICU. Some people may just be entering into the emergency room. So using that analogy, we have to help each other, not talk bad about each other, not talk down to each other, but assist each other. Realize and recognize that we are all in this together, and that Srila Prabhupada has given us this ISKCON movement, which is a house in which everyone can live in. We have to take care of each other. So I just wanted to put this out there. Also, according to, if you look at the Mahabharata, there was conversations between grandfather Bhishma and Maharaj Yudhishthira. And grandfather Bhishma instructs Yudhishthira Maharaj how a person should speak. And he gives 5 ways of speaking. He says, and it goes in order. So he says the best way of speaking, or the best speech, is to glorify the Lord, to glorify Krishna. If you can't do that, then the second best is just to use pleasing, sweet words. If you can't do that, at least the next stage is truthful words. After that comes useless speech. And the bottom of the rung, which we don't want to do, is blasphemous speech. We don't want to blaspheme anyone. Why? Because you know the example of the mad elephant in the garden. Like we have this Bhakti Lata Bij. You looked at that in Nectar of Devotion. This creeper we have of devotional service. We are as gardeners, we want to take care of it. We want to make sure that we don't want to bring this wild elephant of just being offensive to Vaishnavas. We don't want this wild elephant of offenses to come in and tramp our creeper, tramp this small plant. We want to make sure that we don't commit any offenses. So in that way, we should stay away from prajalpa, unnecessary talk. Sometimes people may be very honest, and I've had people in the past tell me, Mataji, but what should I do? Like in South Africa, I used to teach like a children's course, and they would ask me these questions. But Mataji, what if some people are talking about things that are not related to Krishna, and I'm in the conversation? What should I do? So my advice is, try to bring in Krishna into the conversation. But if you notice that it's not going anywhere and they're still talking about that, then you have a choice to either just sit and listen to it, or you have a better choice is to just kindly excuse yourself and go do something else. Or just kindly say, no, can we just talk a little bit more about Krishna consciousness, especially when we are at the temple. Especially at home as well, but more especially at the temple. We should make sure. So I covered that. I'm going to move on now to Niyama Agraha. So this here, and I know there's a whole lot to look at today. This Niyama Agraha is a word that is broken up. It can be said in 2 ways. One is Niyama Agraha, and the other is Niyama Agraha. So the A is long. It's a long A in one context, and it's a short A in the other context. So the first one with the long A is to follow. You accept this person here, Niyama Agraha. They just very eager to accept all the rules and regulations. They just follow everything. They follow rules and regulations. But unfortunately, they follow all these things just for the sake of following it. Sometimes you ask them why you are doing that. Like if you follow like a typically, like I know I grew up in a Hindu home, Hindu background, and my parents did a whole lot of different ritualistic activities. And growing up, when I asked them why they did stuff, most of the time my mother would say, oh, your grandmother did it, your great-grandmother did it, so we just following in their footsteps. So they follow all these things not knowing why they're doing it. So that is niyama agraha. You eager to follow all these rules and regulations for spiritual advancement, but you just accepting them, not realizing what it means. And the other one, the converse to that is niyama agraha. So here you're just following, you're not following the rules and regulations. You just reject everything and you act whimsically. You just do your own thing. Remember I said we're all so independent. We don't want to be told what to do. So here, both of it is not good. The one where you reject the rules and the one where you accept it just for the sake of accepting it. We don't want to do either or. So this is also a big no-no. Just following for the sake of following and also rejecting it. We'll move on. Next one is Jana Sangascha. So Jana Sangascha means basically we should not associate with worldly minded people, people that are not interested in Krishna consciousness. We should just make sure whatever we do, we should follow devotees. Like here, and let me see if I have the next slide. Just 1 minute. I'm gonna come back. Okay, no, I'm gonna come back to that. So here, we should follow what Narottam Das Thakur says, and let me quickly pull that up. Just give me 1 second. 1 second. Okay. Narottam Das Thakur says we should only live in the association of Krishna conscious devotees. And he uses the words Bhakta Sanevas. So like Srila Prabhupada says, the analogy of the stock market. Stock market means those people that are interested in Wall Street, the stock market, everything they do is like-minded people. They stick together. Like you have people that have different clubs, like maybe a club, a chess club, a club for maybe people that are interested in the stock market. So in the same way, Srila Prabhupada says, we have the perfect society. We have the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, ISKCON. So Srila Prabhupada says in his commentary that this is the best. This spiritual association by our ISKCON movement is increasing day by day. So we should stick together in ISKCON, stick with like-minded people. And he ends off, Rup Goswami ends off these 6 things with the last one saying lolyam. Lolyam is greed. We should not be greedy for bhukti, mukti, or siddhi. What does it mean? Bhukti means being greedy, only being interested in material happiness, trying to chase after money, wealth. Mukti means trying to desire liberation. You just want to merge with the absolute Brahman. And Siddhi, somebody that's mainly interested in all of this mystic yoga practices and doing all these things. So all of these 3 types of people are atyaharis. They just over endeavoring. Basically, they have this ardent greed and longing just to lord it over this material world. But finally, they're not going to go anywhere. So don't associate with these 3 types of people. What are the advantages of avoiding them? We become and I'm almost going to be done with this. I know it was a long text. It was actually, I think, 11 pages of purport. So I tried to summarize it the best I could. And I hope it made sense to all of you. What is the advantages? What is the
Lakshmi, she can't hear you. She's having some problem. Can you please
okay, just give
talk
me
to
a
her?
moment.
No, there are some devotees, their mic is on.
Okay. Oh, Lakshmi Priya says, I can't hear Mataji anymore. I'm not too sure why that is, Lakshmi Priya. Maybe look at your volume, just look at your computer.
I think there is disturbance from other devotees' mics.
Okay.
Advantages of avoid.
Okay,
Please
so
turn off your mic.
yes, maybe once again, everyone, a very humble request. Just turn off your mics. Just give me 1 minute. Turn off your mic so we can move on. Okay, so what are the advantages of avoiding all of these association with all these different types of people? We get an ideal society. We don't have any more enemies. All of our enmity or enemies are vinashati. All of these things are destroyed. Economic maladjustment, that means any economic problems, anything's, all of it, we don't get troubled with that. There's political stability. We have a spiritual community, ISKCON, which helps us in our spiritual awakening. And finally, we have this most wonderful society where we can get the best education and the best training. So to sum up and summarize text 2, these are all the don'ts, the nished. Rup Goswami starts off with this. That's how important it is. He says, don't do this. Don't associate with these people. Don't talk too much. Don't associate with worldly-minded people. Don't be greedy for all these different things. Don't eat too much. Don't collect too much. Don't follow rules and regulations just for the sake of following it. Don't accept it without knowing why you're doing it. So I think that should be the end of that. And I'm going to move on. If there is no comments or anything, anybody wants to add anything, I would like to move on because I'm looking at time. You also have a quiz at the end of this class. So if I can just move on. Okay, thank you. I'm going to go ahead. So now we get to the fun part. With all of the don'ts left behind, we're now looking at all of the do's. So this is text 3. You can pull it up in your hard copy as well, or your PDF. Okay, let me go ahead. Text 3. Utsaha nischaya dharyat tat tat karma pravartanat sanga tyagat sato vrite sadbir bhakti prasiddhyati. Translation: there are 6 principles favorable to the execution of pure devotional service. So meaning, these are the 6 things we should do. So guys, all of this now is only going to be positive. What you should do in your daily life. 1, being enthusiastic, utsahan, being enthusiastic. 2, endeavoring with confidence. 3, being patient. 4, acting according to regulative principles such as smaranam, kirtanam, Vishnu smaranam, hearing, chanting, and remembering Krishna. 5, abandoning the association of non-devotees. And 6, following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. And Srila Rupa Goswami sums up by saying, these 6 principles, these 6 do's undoubtedly assure the complete success of pure devotional service. So can you see, he's saying if you follow this, without a doubt, there's no 2 questions about it. He is giving us his assurance that we're going to be completely successful in devotional service. Just one thing I want to show you. See this last line? Sadbir bhakti prasiddhyati. So these are all the things that's going to help us. What was the previous text, the last line? Sadbir bhakti vinashati. So vinashati, the last text, all of the 6 things that destroy our spirituality, our bhakti. And now we're going to look at the 6 things that help us, that favor, that aid our bhakti. And remember, everyone, all of this is just to help our bhakti. So the next part here, I'm going to quickly look at it. Utsahan, being enthusiastic. Nischayat, endeavoring, being confident. Dhairyat, being patient. Acting according to the regulative principles, that's tat tat karma. Sangat tyagat, who to associate with, who not to associate with. And Sato Vritte means following in the footsteps of our wonderful previous acharyas. So here, let me quickly, I'm going to have this on. Okay, before I move on, I don't want to get you into this. Just give me 1 second. Just 1 second. I'm going to go back. I'm just going to keep, let me keep this text on. I'm going to go straight to page 27, text 3. Srila Prabhupada in his commentary talks about, which you've covered, the first text of Nectar of Devotion. Anya bhilasita sunyam jnana karmadi anavritam anukulyena krishnano silanam bhaktir uttamam. So Srila Prabhupada starts off by saying that the best thing we should do is engage in this process of devotional service. What is bhakti? What is bhakti is just rendering devotional service that is favorable to Krishna. Our devotional service should not have any motives. We should not stand in front. We have a Swami back in South Africa. His name is Bhakti Chaitanya Swami, and he always makes fun of most of our South African Indian people are Hindu people. So we have a thing where everybody says like that, Om Jai Jagadish Hare, you know, the prayers they say. So he always jokes with us and says, oh, we always praying to Krishna saying, please Krishna, give me a nice car and a nice wife and all these things. We ask for material things. So we don't want that. So bhakti is not things that give us all of this material happiness. Our bhakti is free from any motive. It's free from fruit of karma. It's free from any selfish desires. We just want to please Krishna. We just want to desire to give service to Krishna. So I'm going to just quickly move on. And then, okay. I'm going to look at this. Then in the purport, Srila Prabhupada goes on to say that bhakti is a cultivation of what we do. It helps us, we grow spiritually. So it doesn't mean just sitting idly and just meditating and doing transcendental meditation or just trying to, like reach Krishna by all these means. Srila Prabhupada says, no, there's actually a process. And he uses Prahlad Maharaj's recommendations. What are the 9 processes of devotional service? So here, see how easy all of it is. So this spirituality, if we just follow Srila Prabhupada's instructions, it's so easy, so sublime. So Srila Prabhupada is following on what Rup Goswami is saying. How do you be enthusiastic? How are you confident? How should you be patient? How should you do all these things? So the purport says, just follow these 9 processes. Shravanam, which means hear the names and the glories of the Lord. This, by the way, is the first step. And who perfectly exemplified this was Maharaj Parikshit. Next step is Kirtanam, chanting the glories. And we know Sukadev Goswami spoke Kirtanam, chanting, talking about Bhagavatam, which Sukadev Goswami exemplified this. Then Prahlad Maharaj was the perfect example of Vishnu Smaranam, always remembering Krishna, never forgetting him. Then Pada Sevanam, serving the Lord's lotus feet. The best example was Lakshmi Devi herself. Then Archanam, worshipping the deity, which is best example, Prithu Maharaj. Vandanam, Akrura, offering obeisances to the Lord. Then Dasyam, perfect example in all of the worlds, is Hanuman, acting as Krishna's or Lord Ram's servant. Sakyam, Arjuna was the perfect friend, making friends with the Lord. And finally, we see the culmination of all 9 processes was Bali Maharaj, where his whole body, mind, and soul surrendered himself fully to the Lord. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is saying how to do these 6 things, how to follow this 9 processes of devotional service, and your life will be successful. I'm going to come back to that. Okay, just 1 minute. Sorry, guys, I'll come back. I'll just keep this. I'll keep this on, but I want to quickly go on to page 29. Srila Prabhupada talks about Bhagavad Gita, text 34, chapter 4, how we should start off by first approaching a spiritual master. And he gives the verse, Tadvidi pranipatena pariprasnena sevaya upidakshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattva darshina. Just try to learn the truth, how approach a spiritual master. When you approach him, what should you do? This is important. Inquire from him submissively. Render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge because he has seen the truth. So don't tell your guru what you want him to let you do. You listen to him. Be a very surrendered, submissive soul. And also in the, let me see where my mind map is for this. Okay, here. I'm going to quickly come. So what is not bhakti? Bhakti is not speculation based on sentiment. Neither is just bhakti imagination of ecstasies of love of Krishna. No, bhakti is, I told you the verse, Anyabilasita Sunyam, pure devotional service. Bhakti is cultivation of our spiritual lives, our spirituality. It's not just sitting idly. It's like how the gardener is cultivating that plant. We are cultivating the Bhakti Lata Bij. We are pouring water, doing our japa, which is cultivating our bhakti. We are attached to devotional activities. All of this is bhakti. How to perform bhakti? I told you the 9 processes of devotional service, Shravanam, Kirtanam, and so forth. Then under the Guru's instructions, we should follow, surrender to the Guru. Then the Upanishad called the Mundaka Upanishad says, approach a bona fide spiritual master. And then Mahaprabhu in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela instructs Rup Goswami, you know the famous verse, Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagavan Jiva Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Beach. There we go. We should, if we are, and to paraphrase, if you are fortunate enough to receive this seed of devotional service of Bhakti Lata, you should take to this process, submit to Guru and Krishna and follow sincerely. And Srila Prabhupada says that that's why ISKCON is there. We should come to ISKCON. Why do we need to perform this? Because it is extremely rare, it's very blissful, it's liberating. Who can follow it? Anyone. There's no hard and fast rule. Anyone can do it. Where should they perform it? They should come to our society and follow it from there. So let me just move on. Okay, so I'm moving on to the next one. What should our attitude be? Well, our attitude, Srila Prabhupada says, firstly, and it's not written on this slide, I'm actually looking at page 32. So you can just quickly go to page 32. Srila Prabhupada says we should endeavor with intelligence. Remember those 2 words, endeavor, but use your intelligence. That is called utsahan or enthusiasm. So we should be enthusiastic. We should be both patient and confident. Srila Prabhupada says, the successful execution of Krishna, and I'm reading from page 32, the successful execution of Krishna conscious activities requires both patience and confidence. So here Srila Prabhupada gives an example of, and I think it's on this page, or just give me 1 second. Okay, I think it's the page before that. I skipped one of those pages, but Srila Prabhupada talks about the younger, it's on this page, I'm sorry, it's on 32. Srila Prabhupada talks about an analogy of a young girl that's newly married. And when she's newly married, she desires to have a child straight away. But Srila Prabhupada says that she should just surrender to her husband and be confident that a child will come in due course of time. She should be confident, she should have faith, and she should also be patient. And one thing that I loved about the purport is Srila Prabhupada says that how in starting this Krishna consciousness movement, he was extremely patient. And he says that initially not too many people came, but over time, he uses his own example, and he says he was very patient, and slowly more and more devotees started coming. You know, all of you know the story of coming to New York and struggling so hard. Srila Prabhupada went for an entire year to the dock side to see when the next ship was leaving to India and when the next ship was leaving. And he was but he was so patient. And finally, this Krishna consciousness movement started, and we are where we are today. So we should always surrender, be patient and confident. And then Srila Prabhupada goes on to talk about a devotee should have this attitude, Avashya Rakshibe Krishna, or Avashya Rakibe Krishna. That means a devotee should always think, be confident that Krishna will always protect me. Let me quote the words. Krishna will surely protect me and give me help for the successful execution of devotional service. So we should always have that thought that Krishna is always going to protect me. One other thing which I saw always in the purport, Srila Prabhupada talked about tat karma pravartanat, which is from the actual text. Rup Goswami says that we should engage in all of those activities that are favorable for our Krishna consciousness. We should use everything and anything for Krishna consciousness. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada talks about using a dictaphone. And he was like, see, I'm using this dictaphone. There was an inventor. He used his brain to make this machine. His brain was supplied by Krishna. Then to make the actual parts, it was a combination of the 5 material energies: earth, water, fire, air, wind. So all of it is Krishna's energy. And now Prabhupada is saying, I'm using all of this in Krishna's service. And we know that term, Yukta Vairagya. That means using everything in the service of Krishna. Doing everything, seeing everything as a way for us to help us to serve Krishna in that way. Okay, so let me just move on. We know that these are all now the niyamas, the regulated principles. That means we should, chant our rounds, read, do service in the temple, visit the holy places, and do all these things. So let's just move on. In our purport, there's 2 things that I want to look at. There was commentary by Narottam Das Thakur and also by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Asat Sangha Tyaga E Vaishnava Achar. That means a Vaishnava is one who gives up the association of worldly people or non-devotees. So we should not have associate with devotees. And it shouldn't have been previous acharyas. Okay, just Narottam Das, but here it's Mahaprabhu as well. So Narottam Das Thakur is saying, Tandera Charan Seva Bhakta Sanivas. One has to live in the company of pure devotees and execute the religious regulated principles laid down by the 6 Goswamis. So following these yam and niyamas, we should live our lives accordingly. So I just wanted to add those. I just wanted to make sure that I didn't leave anything out. And Srila Prabhupada goes on to say that we should rise early, read Bhagavatam, chant our rounds, perform kirtan. Everything we do should be done as a service to Krishna. And I'm trying to see if I have left anything else. Okay. The main idea, which I'm almost done, and I know you have a quiz to take as well. I'm just quickly trying to see if I left out anything. Oh, Srila Prabhupada in the commentary makes mention that if we follow all these things, Krishna says to Arjuna, Bhagavad Gita 9:31, Kaunteya, he says, Kati janahi name bhakta pranashati. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. So Srila Prabhupada is making us aware that if we follow all these principles, there's no chance of any of us falling down. Nothing will happen to us. Krishna will take care of us. He will protect us. We just have to be enthusiastic and confident in the process. And we have to follow our previous acharyas. We have to have faith in Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So here, I'm going to quickly just sum up. If I don't think I've left too many things out. What is our attitude in devotional service? These 6 things. We should be enthusiastic. We should always want to do service for Krishna. We shouldn't wait for somebody to come ask us to do something. We should take it upon ourselves to say, Prabhu, can I do this? Or Mataji, can I help you? And I've seen so many wonderful devotees I've observed in the temple that have taken it upon themselves to do such wonderful service without being asked to do this. So that is what you call enthusiasm. That's a first-class devotee that doesn't wait to be told what to do or asked to do. That person volunteers themselves. So we should be enthusiastic, we should be confident, and we should also be patient. Things are not going to come right overnight. Even if we have all of this anarthas, unwanted thoughts, feelings, everything, be patient, have firm faith, be confident, everything will work out. What is our behavior? We should give up association of non-devotees, associate only with devotees, and sometimes also choose our devotee association carefully as well. What should our character be? We should make sure that part of what we're doing is always engaged in Krishna conscious activities, activities that are favorable for our devotional life. And what direction should our life go in? We should follow in the footsteps of our previous acharyas. We have everything there. We have videos that we can watch on YouTube. We have lectures that we can listen to. We have online classes that we can take. We can read all of these scriptures. So there's no chance of any one of us saying that we can't do any of it because it's too difficult or it's too far away. Now with online, we can do everything like you are doing today. So we should also, to sum up, not associate with the wrong crowd, with karmis, jnanis, yogis. Just be fixed in your devotional service. Like Srila Prabhupada said, be a Mahatma, someone of very sound character and broad-minded. And that is the end of text 2 and text 3. I'm looking at time. I think we're quite good. I'm going to send you the homework. So just quickly, this homework is from the 7 questions that are part of the open book questions that are already done in your study guide. I just lifted it off and gave it to you as homework. Why? Because I want to make it easy for you for the exam. Because as you practice this, remember the examiners. Now remember, I am not going to be an examiner for this course. Whoever is the examiner, they're going to choose which questions you have to answer. So you have to be prepared to answer any question. So the first homework, explain the importance of atyahara, that means, and prayas in one's practice of devotional service. How can you avoid these tendencies? So the first part of the homework, you're going to tell me, why is Rupa Goswami talking about we should not eat too much, we should not collect too much, we should not prayas, we should not over endeavor? Why is he saying all these things? How is it detrimental to our spiritual life? So you're going to talk about that. The first part of your homework is going to be explain it. Tell me, what is atyahar? Tell me, what is prayas? Atyahar, to eat too much, to collect too much. What is prayas? Over endeavoring for material things. So you're going to state what is give the definition of each of the two, of each one. After you give the definition, then tell me how to avoid this. How can you not do this? So that's the first one. Then the second question, what is the importance of associating with devotees? Why should we associate with devotees? How do devotees? And I'm sorry, there's someone that needs to mute their sound. Please mute your mic. What is the importance of associating with devotees, and why should we avoid non-devotees? So pretty simple. If you listen to my class today and you took good notes, you should be good. You should be good to answer. Please, like the last time, those of you that came in late, for the last homework, I only had 13 people that submitted it. If you did not do your previous homework, please make sure you get that done, that one question you had to answer, and do this homework, and you can submit all of it at one time. There's my email. I put a tentative date of next, not this coming Saturday, next Saturday. You can get that done for them. Okay, this is again my email and my number. I will send it to you straight after this class. And are we now going to be ready to, let me see if there's any problems. Okay. We're now going to go ahead to move on to the pop quiz. Time-wise, we got enough time. So we're going to go ahead to the quiz. Just give me 1 second. Okay.
Devotees, please mute your mic.
Okay. Thank you, Gopal Radhikari. Yes, please make sure, guys, it's just a simple microphone that has a red line across it. Make sure that it has a red line across it. Your quiz, you have 10 minutes, 40, 50, okay. By 5:50, we should be done. Okay, you can go ahead and start taking the quiz.
Hare Krishna Mataji, where's the quiz? I mean, we don't see anything.
Oh, it's on the screen. You should be able to see it. Okay, is there anyone else that can't see the quiz? Everybody can see it? You should be able to see it. And you can just scroll up and down to get all the answers.
Put your volume down. It's because they're on different.
I know you're busy in the quiz. Just one quick word. For question 9, there's just 2 words missing. The last option should be protect me and help me in rendering devotional service.
Haribol Mataji, I just want to make a quick announcement while everybody's answering.
Yes, Prabhu, go ahead.
Okay, yes. So I know many of you have already sent me the email with all your details. Those who haven't, please do that. And if you're a big family, all of you are doing, make sure that in that email you have put everybody's name and all the details. So please make sure that you send it. Thank you. Haribol. The deadline is today by 7 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. We have a few minutes more. I'm waiting on a few of you to please to complete the questions. At least about 10 more students have to take it. I've got at least 31 out of 41, 75% have taken it. So at least the last 25% need to take it.
Haribol Mataji?
Yes.
Yes. I wanted to ask you a question. Could you elaborate on Jana Sangha and Lalya more?
Okay, Jana Sangha is associating with people that are not devotees, worldly minded people.
Okay.
And Lolyam means having that greed, chasing after all like mundane, materialistic things.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mataji, you just answered the question.
I did. Well, Shubham is a bright student.
I already finished it. That's why I asked.
Yeah, we've been done the test.
Okay. We almost done, I think. Almost everyone is finished. And time-wise, we got another like a minute or so.
Hare Krishna Mataji, asked a question.
Yes, Madhurima.
The pop quiz that you gave, it's not showing in my screen.
Oh, I don't understand why, Madhurima. It should appear on your screen. Maybe I can send it to you after the class because we're almost running out of time, okay? So I will send you the questions separately and you can take it after this, okay?
Okay.
Send me on my text, on my phone, just send me your email or something. Okay. I'm now going to quickly go over the answers. I think almost everybody is done. Okay, we're now ready to move on. So I'm just going to end the questions and move on.
Hare Krishna. Mother, can it put the, what do you call, last time homework again, please?
What do you need?
Last class homework.
Last class homework, sure. I told you all that before. I'll send it to you. When I send you this PowerPoint, I'll include the last class homework as well.
Thank you.
You most
Haribo.
welcome. Okay, Hare Krishna. Okay, let's just quickly look at the answers and we can go over it. Madhurima, I just realized that you can just look at the answers now, okay? Because it's no use me sending you the quiz because you're going to see the answers anyway. So the first one of all the do's and don'ts, which of the following is most important? And I think almost everybody got that right. It is C, always remember Krishna and never forget him. The second one, a Mahatma is one who, the answer is D, gratifies the senses of the Lord. Here again, most of you got that. Because we don't want to gratify our senses, we want to gratify the senses of the Lord. The living entity is part of which energy? The living entity is part of the marginal energy. Like you can see on the screen, you can see most of you got that as well. The fourth one, which is not one of the threefold miseries of the material world, it's suffering caused by Lord Krishna. That is not one of the answers. We can see the others are the threefold miseries. Question 5. Jana Sangha refers to association with people not interested in Krishna consciousness. Number 6, and again, most of you got that. 6 of all the 9 processes, the first step is Shravanam, which is hearing. And again, wonderful, most of you got that. 7, endeavor executed with intelligence is called enthusiasm, utsahan. So most of you got that. This was a little tricky because you would have had to be following closely and you had to, like, if you had extra time, read the actual purport where Prabhupada says that. 8, the purpose of approaching a spiritual master is to inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. So that was, again, most of you got that right. The last 2, number 9, Avashya Rakhibe Krishna means that Krishna will protect me and help me in rendering, and the word's supposed to be, that's omitted, devotional service. And the last one, the successful execution of Krishna conscious activities requires both, which is B, patience and confidence, which a lot of you got as well. Okay, so that's the end of the pop quiz. We're going to just move on. Thank you so much for taking that. I just have my email again and the WhatsApp. I'm going to send you the last homework for those of you. Remember, there's only 13 of you that submitted it. So I'm going to go ahead and send you the last homework, and I'll send you this slideshow as well. And I know this was the first time I didn't get the opportunity, but is there anyone that has any questions? Anyone wants to share anything with us? We have another 6 minutes to go. So if anybody wants to ask any questions and you didn't get a chance to do it while the class was on, or you want to share any realizations, now is your time. You can unmute your mics and ask a question or share your realization.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
You mentioned that Bhishma Pitama mentioned about 5 types of speeches. One is pleasing Krishna, speaking truth, pleasing to everyone, and what's the 4th one?
Not using blasphemous words, not using, which ones did you get again? Just tell me.
I got, okay, one is pleasing Krishna, then another one is speaking the truth, then pleasing to everyone, then blasphemy, I'm missing one.
Just give me 1 minute, and I can't remember it offhand. I just got it written down. Just give me 1 second. Okay. Glorifying the Lord, using sweet words, truthful speaking, useless speech, and blasphemous speech.
Okay.
And it goes in order, like blasphemous is worse, then useless, then truthful, then pleasing, and then finally glorifying. That's the best one.
So
Do we have that in the purport?
What's that? No, that's not in the purport. No.
The first one is glorifying or pleasing.
Yes. No, the first one is glorifying Krishna. The first one is glorifying, using words that are just glorifying the Lord.
Okay, second one
is using sweet or pleasing words.
Okay.
And the third one is truthful words. And the fourth one is useless. And then the fifth one is blasphemous.
Okay.
Which is the worst of the lot. We don't want to blaspheme anyone. So that's the last one.
Okay, thank you so much, Mataji.
Sure.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Mataji. I had a question. So you're gonna give me the quiz, and then if when I'm done, do I send it to you?
Okay, I can see. We just went over the answers, Madhurima. So, but I will still send it to you. You can take it, just for your own benefit. Okay, I'll send it to you after this.
Okay.
Okay. Is there any other questions, comments from anyone? Okay. If nobody has anything to add, then thank you so much for being sharing 2 hours of your time with me on this afternoon. I will send you the PowerPoint, the slides, and I'll send you all of the homework and all the best. And like I said before, just make sure that you are also checking, answering the questions, the 34 questions that you have in your study guide. Make sure that you are constantly checking those questions and answering those questions, because you don't want to leave everything for your exam. I do realize you have Nectar of Devotion, you got Ishopanishad, and you got Bhagavad Gita as well. So just a word, this is a school teacher in me, just to make sure you're all well prepared. Don't leave everything for the last. You've got the 7 questions in your study guide that says open book, and then you have the 34 questions in your study guide that says closed book. So as soon as you have time, just start answering them. And I'm also free now. If you feel like you answering them, and I can actually, give me a minute, I'll tell you the page numbers. Page 99 of your study guide has, it should say unit 5, page 99 has got the 7 open book questions, and page 96 and 97 have the text questions. There's 34 in all. So if you can keep some loose leaf as you're doing each text, you keep answering those questions, you'll have all your answers for this. That will be your study guide for the exam. If you even want me to check, just grade that for you as well, before that, I can do that as well, as soon as you get it done. If there's nothing else to add, thank you so much. And I beg forgiveness if I have missed out anything. I ask for your, please forgive me if I've missed out anything, if I've said anything inappropriately, please forgive me. Some people don't have the study guide. Okay, I'll send the link how to get the study guide. If you don't have the study guide, I'll send all of that. So at least that can help you. So thank you.